Welcome to Full Time Score. I'm your host, Taban Romkhwase. This is our second episode. So, yeah, man, so far so good. Some subscriptions, more likes. Thank you for the support. Keep on liking. We're going to keep improving the content and everything else. It'll get there slowly but surely. They say Rome wasn't built in a day. So I'm still building my room. I'm getting my 2, 3 bricks together, then I'll have a foundation pretty soon and then we'll build from there. But nonetheless, thank you for supporting. Hopefully we can keep going this project as well. Today's episode 2, we're going to be focusing obviously on the African Cup of Nations quarterfinal stage. I think that's what is priority in terms of current affairs in the African sense. I could have rather gone into the Compact Cup, GSTU Compact Cup, all of that. I decided not to do that yet because I feel like I want to do justice to the PSL by doing a full mid-season review in another episode, hopefully before the PSL kicks off for the season. So I want to do this part. I want to focus on AFCON, get it out of the way. Then just before PSL kicks off, we get into what the PSL has been about so far until the mid-season and predictions for the future. So in today's video, obviously, we're going to be focusing on what's happening, or what happened over the weekend, and what's happening in the AFCON African Cup of Nations there in Cameroon. Then, of course, I'll be doing a little bit of predictions. I'm not a fan of doing predictions because it's football. There's no therefore. The ball is round, etc, etc. I don't like it. But I'll do a bit of a prediction and say who's my player of the tournament as well. I'll mention that later on in the video and who I think will be the 2 finalists based on the games that will take place. But for now, thank you for joining us. Let's get into it, man. We had 4 games this weekend. We had Gambia up against the host Cameroon. Then we also had Tunisia up against Burkina Faso. We had Egypt against Morocco. Then we had last night also Senegal up against Equatorial Guinea. Starting off with the first game between Gambia and Cameroon. First of all, I want to say this. Credit to Gambia. Gambia are a team or perhaps a country that has no business being this far in the tournament. That based on their rankings. I mean, you look at their rankings. They ranked 150th in the world. They ranked 46th on the African continent. I think they're one of the lowest ranking sides alongside Mauritania, team we should be very familiar with here in South Africa. They probably are very low, the most low-ranked team, but they made it to the quarterfinal. How they made it to the quarterfinal, history is always a good teacher. You look at their results. I think they lost 1-0, they won 1-0, then they won 1-0. They had 7 points. Or they drew 1-1 against Mali. They won 1-0, they won 1-0. And then they won 1-0 again against Guinea. And then they made it to the quarterfinal against a very good team, the host, Cameroon, which I'll get into a bit now. Credit to them for that. There's a saying in sports, they may have lost the game, but they won our hearts. And I think that reflects on Gambia because they literally won people's hearts. They won their home fans' hearts. They won us people from the outside point of view. It's hard to say, wow, these guys, unknown players, no superstar player, no fancy stuff, none of all that rubbish that we all look into. There they are in the quarterfinal. Congratulations to them for that. However, on a game set, just observation on Saturday, I mentioned that they've been winning 1-0, drawing 1-1, winning 1-0. It reflected because it reminded me painfully of the 2019 AFCON where Bafana were there, and we were playing the same way, defensively robust, playing on the transition, waiting for the opponents to make a mistake. Gambia went into Saturday's game saying, we're going to either score from a set play, which is a corner or a free kick or a penalty, or we're going to hit them on a transition, meaning if they make a mistake, lose the ball in a certain area, maybe they lose it halfway in the field, we're going to win and we're going to run faster, we're going to try to put a ball in the back of the net. Hence, they couldn't get any of their attacking players into the game. None of their strikers were in the game. None of their wingers were in the game. None of their forwards were in the game. The only problem I will always have with that, I'm down for game management, I'm down from being pragmatic. Jose Mourinho mastered it many, many years ago. The biggest issue I'll always have with these approaches is that there's literally never a plan B. When your opponent does not do what you think, if your opponent does not make a mistake, and you can't capitalize on the set plays, the free kicks, the penalties that you always plan to capitalize on, there's nothing to it for you. You can't win the game. And that's exactly what happened to Gambia. They could not do it. Credit to Cameroon, who have been, for me, the team of the tournament. Since day one against Burkina Faso, I watched them, Vincent Abubakar, leading the nation, And one thing I like about this Cameroon team is that they play to each other's strength. They play within a certain system, and they know this is what brings the best out of us. We're going to win like this. I'll say with them, one thing that I know, if you go 2012, 10 years back, they had a superstar team. Samuel Eto'o, they've got Samuel Patrick Mba, Rico Besong, at some point, Alexander Song. They had all these great players who were doing so well in Europe, playing for them. I think they won it in 2002 as well, and they were great. That was a great generation. That generation went on past, but this current generation seems to be a generation that says, we're going to work our socks off, and we're going to play better as a team. We don't have a superstar. And now they have someone who's playing like a superstar in Vincent Abubakar, and he's carrying the team on his back. He's had a great tournament, leading goal scorer. He scored factually, and I read up on some stats. He scored 6 goals, third most in the history of AFCON by an individual. The most in an AFCON is 7 goals by a certain guy called Benny McCarthy. Don't know if you know him, but he scored 7 goals in 1998 alongside a guy called Hassan, something like that, from Egypt. I remember him because he scored against Bafana Bafana in the final. I remember that vaguely. I've got a good memory, so I remember vaguely though. And he scored against Bafana Bafana, we lost. So in 1998, there were 2 players, 7 goals. Bafana Bafana's Benny McCarthy. Bafana Bafana, in my opinion, is the greatest player of all time with those 7 goals. Now, Vincent Abubakar's on 6, so he's got 2 more games. If he goes to the semi-final and the final, or semi-final, third and fourth playoff, depending on the result, to equal that tournament. And with that said, that's my player of the tournament, Vincent Abubakar, leading goal scorer. And I think the way he's just played overall for Cameroon, I think he's been my player of the tournament. And credit to Cameroon, because they're playing like a team. They're not playing like a group of individuals. What can happen in a superstar team, like we've seen with the Ivory Coast in the past, with Cameroon in the past as well. They're playing like a team. They're a well-oiled machine. They gel together. They're playing very, very good football. And they've got the crowd with them. I heard another one on air when I was watching. Commentator said for some reason the stadium percentage goes up when Cameroon play. So, because of coronavirus, stadiums are monitored to about like 30% capacity. But when Cameroon plays, it's about 50 to 40% capacity. That helps. I don't know why. I don't understand the fairness in that. I know a lot of people don't think crowds can affect the football, man. I believe they can. I don't get the fairness in that. But yeah, man. So far, Cameroon for me, team of the tournament, player of the tournament, Vincent Abubakar. The second game was also Burkina Faso up against Tunisia. Let's talk about Burkina Faso. If we again go back 10, 20 years back, you wouldn't think Burkina Faso would be a national team, a football team that would do so well. And they've done well in the past 10 years. They came second in 2013. They lost the final right in South Africa to Nigeria. They came second, their biggest achievement in the history of their football. Equally, they've always been knocking about qualifying for tournaments, giving teams a hard time, They've been in and out. They're not very consistent. But whenever they've been given a chance, like now, they usually use it. Fine, they haven't been the best team. They won on penalties in the previous round. They got away with one, lost to Cameroon in a very good game. They credited themselves quite well. In the second game also. But last night's game, they did exactly what Gambia did. Simple. Play on the transition. They were not going to beat Tunisia. They were not going to go toe-to-toe Tunisia. So they decided to manage the game by saying, we're going to defend deep, bring it. Because if you look at stats, all the stuff, Tunisia dominated the game. Absolutely dominated the game. Tunisia just like the cutting edge. Burkina Faso had 2 or 3 chances, but the main chance they got in what they call a critical phase of the match, 46th minute, 47th minute, in that additional time minute before halftime. 1-0. 1-0 Tunisia. And that then creates pressure on 1-0 Burkina Faso rather. Then that creates pressure on Tunisia to say, hey, we need to go, we need to come back, we need to, but they couldn't because they lacked the cutting edge. Tunisia have been also one of those disappointing teams in the tournament, a team that's ranked in the top 10 in Africa, but they haven't performed, not at all. You look at African football as a landscape, with Tunisia, teams like Tunisia, Morocco, Egypt, the North African teams. They dominate the leagues here in Africa. They dominate the CAF Champions League. But for whatever reason, especially Tunisia, it never reflects onto the national team. It hasn't reflected in a long, long time. The national team has struggled for long, and the struggles seem to continue in this tournament as well. So it's really, really not good for them. I'm sure there'll be a lot of reflection. Coaches are going to get fired because obviously they lost to Burkina Faso, which, with all respect, they shouldn't be losing to Burkina Faso, especially the way they lost. But they lost. So I'm sure there'll be a huge inquest there. And it's disappointing tournament, but we have to give credit. Burkina Faso deserve all the credit in the world. And they are one of those teams that they are dark horses, and they're a team with nothing to lose. And someone once said to me, a man with nothing to lose is the most dangerous man in the world. And that's how it always reflects in these types of situations where Tunisia have more to lose. They are the team with the bigger pedigree, the bigger reputation. Burkina Faso are just the upstarts, just a group of guys trying to make themselves and their country and their families proud. And they've got nothing to lose. Because either way, if they lost at the quarterfinal stage, I'm sure the president was going to go shake all their hands and say congratulations. Unlike Tunisia, where they're probably going to get criticism more than anything. And then the next game, probably the game of the tournament for me, Egypt against Morocco. Game of the tournament for me, and game of the weekend also, just to add it in there. If I could ever draw a picture of what a derby should look like, a derby being two teams from the same region, two teams from Soweto, two teams from North Africa, two teams from Manchester, two teams from Liverpool, whatever. It would be yesterday's game. It was intense. It was physical. There was a lot of passion in the game. And above that, it was good quality football from both sides. This was not like the other two games where we saw one team defending, another going. This was a game where both sides were going at different stages. The game had different paces. Sometimes the pace would slow down, sometimes the pace would go up. And that would go up with the intensity, especially in the second half where Morocco were now knocking on the door, trying to seal a winner. And you could see a lot of fouls coming in, and you could see a lot of fights. The referee, finding out the same referee cheated, Bafana was involved, pushing players, getting involved with players, people getting all sorts of yellow cards. And so for me, as much as people that's not a good football match, that was a good game because that showed people actually care. They love their country. They're fighting with passion, something we don't often say in this country, And they were fighting. Football-wise, first off, Egypt looked good. Finally, for the first time this tournament. There's so many factors that we have to consider. Remember, Egypt changed coaches in September. They brought in Carlos Queiroz, which I still think was a mistake because I believe if a coach qualifies you for a tournament, he has a right to take you to the tournament. And then you can fire him after, for whatever reasons. But he has a right to go and fight for you in the tournament. Egypt decided to, I don't know what happened, but they changed coaches. And they brought in former Bafana coach. But by the way, the last coach to qualify Bafana for a World Cup, Carlos Queiroz. They brought him in. He brought in his mate, South African goalkeeper, former goalkeeper, Roger De Sa, former Orlando Pirates coach, Wits coach, Platinum Stars coach, IS Cape Town coach. They brought him in to be his assistant. And we've seen tactically they've struggled. The team doesn't look like it's gelling. There's still a lot of stuff that I think it's just not there. It's just not there yet. But they're still in the tournament. They won on penalties in the previous round. Now they are where they are. And they've kind of had to rely on individual brilliance to get there. But this game was a different monster. It seems like Queiroz kind of got it right. Also, the players probably look like, in the quarterfinal, it's Morocco. They look more up for it. And they looked up. And they played quite well. First half, they were really, really brilliant. Second half, to their credit, they managed the game well because they didn't give clear-cut chances away. Morocco were knocking on the door. Egypt didn't give any clear-cut chances away. They defended quite well. They handled the pressure. They handled the intensity quite well. Good game management after all. And then they go to the quarter. Then they go to the second, extra time. Get to extra time. They get the goal. Trezeguet gives them Mohamed Salah. Individual brilliance. Trezeguet tap in 2-1. Now they have to manage the game again. And they managed it brilliantly. And at the end of the day, African football is all about game management. I still don't think, I always argue with people that I discuss this with, I don't believe African football is going to be won, or any cup in Africa is going to be won by an expensive game as you see in Europe. You see in Europe, teams that normally dominate in modern day Europe are teams that play an expensive game. Bayern Munich, Man City, can go back a few years, Barcelona. In African football, the best game managers and the most direct team wins. And that's what happened last night. That's what we saw, a very direct team. They were playing down to the wing. Every ball, they were trying to look for Salah into space and trying to make him run at the left back of Morocco. Tried to expose. Luckily, throughout the game for Morocco, they managed to double mark Salah, so he couldn't cut it onto his left foot. So that's why they limited his chances. And I think that's what's been happening with Salah the whole tournament. Double mark, can't get into it, can't cut into his left foot. And he doesn't have the support he has maybe at a Liverpool where he's got a Firmino or Jota or any other way running it from midfield upwards. It seems like they like to leave him isolated for whatever reason. And then from Morocco's side, another problem similar to Tunisia. Dominate, no cutting edge. So Van Boufal, the striker who scored the penalty, disappointing tournament for him. I really had high hopes for him. He's a very good player. Ashraf Hakimi, PSG right back, showed his class yesterday. putting in crosses, but there's only so much you can do from right back or right back, left back position. There's only so much you can really do. Can't really dominate a game there. But if you don't have the help in the middle, you're always going to struggle, and that's what went wrong for them yesterday. Another question would be the coach. Why did he leave Hakim Ziyech? Chelsea fans are happy about it because they could have him a player of his talents. Not that they used it much, but a player of his talents in the team in January for them during AFCON. But you wonder if they had that guy to give them an extra edge from the bench, to come off the bench and start pushing and start playing for them and start getting them to that next level, especially in a tight game like they had last night. You wonder if they had him, where would they be now? Then the last game, Senegal against Equatorial Guinea. Again, Equatorial Guinea, credit to them, another Gambia, Burkina Faso type story. A team you won't expect to be there, ranked somewhere like 28th on the African continent. Played well to get where they are. Also typical of this thing, they looked at Senegal and felt too many superstars. We have to manage the football match. And they did that to their credit, but Senegal's too powerful, too good of a team right now not to win 3-1. Senegal, another team that hasn't performed. And I have to say that a lot of these superstar teams haven't performed. You saw Ghana go home early. You saw Algeria, who I thought, what the hell, go home early. Nigeria, one bad game, gone. Cote d'Ivoire, one bad game, gone. Those are teams that we usually expect to be at this stage of the tournament, but they were all knocked out. Then Senegal and Egypt also haven't really performed, but they're still there. Senegal, similar, kind of relied on a bit of individual brilliance. The team hasn't gelled together, which I found strange because someone once said to me, coaches need time. Aliou Cisse has been coaching Senegal for years now. But the team didn't look like it's a team that's been together. This team has more or less been together for years. I guess it goes back to the whole too many individuals and not enough team. And they are the superstar team of Africa. They're the number one ranked team in Africa. The superstar team in Africa with Sadio Mane, Idrissa Gana, Koulibaly, Edouard Mendy, Ismail Sarr. They've got a lot of players in African context who are superstars because they're playing so well in Europe. They're playing all over Champions Leagues. Mane has been lifting trophies at Liverpool. Koulibaly, one of the highest ranked defenders in world football. They've got everything, every ingredient in the book to suggest that these guys should be winning CAF, or rather the African Cup of Nations, but they still haven't won it. But last night, it looked like, I know they were playing a weaker opponent and you expect them to beat that opponent, but it looked like they could maybe swing momentum into the next game, And yeah, man, credit to them. They've got Burkina Faso, They've got Burkina Faso in the semi-final. Cameroon have got Egypt in the semi-final. So you've got basically 4 teams. 3 teams ranked in the top 10. 1 team just ranked outside number 11. That's Burkina Faso. Good tournament. Competitive teams. No weaker team anymore. 4 competitive teams. 4 strong competitive teams. Should be interesting. On Wednesday, we've got the big one. Cameroon, Egypt. That's a big game. On Thursday, then we've got Burkina Faso against Senegal. I think Senegal will probably win that match and just go to the final. I think my final, I don't like to predict. That's why I don't even play Betway. I don't do all that stuff. Because I like to watch the game and just talk about the game. I don't want to predict, but for the sake of content, I predict the Cameroon versus Senegal final. Based on the way Cameroon are playing, I think Cameroon will be slightly or edge it over Egypt, unless Egypt, the superstar of Mo Salah, shines through, then maybe we can talk. But at the current moment, I think Cameroon will probably seal it tightly, but they'll seal it. Similar to Senegal and Burkina Faso, basically Senegal, again, they have the edge with the superstar players they've got. They've got a world-class goalkeeper, they've got a world-class forward, they've got a world-class midfield and Idrissa guy. On the bench, they've been bringing off Ismail Assar. Well, good player, not world-class, but very, very good. A player that's really wanted in Europe, by the way. I think they'll edge it because they've got the extra quality in individuals more than Burkina Faso. If Burkina Faso are to win, which is possible, they're going to have to do something similar to what they did against Tunisia, but at a higher level, where they're going to have to keep out Mane, they're going to have to keep up those players, keep them out, and when they get a chance, they have to put one behind Edouard Mendy, which is no easy feat, by the way. So it's going to be difficult for Burkina Faso. That's why I see Senegal doing it, and I see the final being Senegal and Cameroon, 2 West African countries. I think they're neighbors. And also then, last but not least, player of the tournament, I maintain it should be Vincent Aboubakar. But we've seen with these individual tournament things, they will give it probably to someone like Amani or Salah if they go that far, because they want to create and generate the hype around the superstar name as well. All right, that's a wrap from my side. Yeah, please comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. We've got more and more content coming up as well. It's your boy Taba.